And there's not one but two athletes on this set. Okay, so rugby in college, gymnastics, track, volleyball, and diving.
Yes.
Yes.
A journalist who does her research.
Right. But you know what's going to be really hard is that Bonnie's going to want to conduct this interview and not be interviewed. You're the interviewee today.
On the other side, it really
I know,
is.
but please indulge us for at least the next 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Fair enough.
You have it in you.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, the show is amazing.
Thank you.
You talk to women titans of industry who all have one thing in common: sports.
That's right.
When you spoke to these women, was there anything you uncovered that you were surprised by, or were you like, I have confirmed what I always knew was true?
It fully cemented it. And I only say there really weren't any surprises because our show is based in research. So 94% of female C-suite executives played sports. Half of those women played in college. And so we've seen all of this data coming out, but what I realized is that there wasn't like one single platform to tell the stories that bring the data to life. So I think, Marisol, those of us who play sports and stay in sports, we get that the teamwork and the leadership and all the things we learn come into play in our career. But when we tell the stories of doctors and lawyers and women who are crushing it in tech and education or government, then it really opens up what the possible looks like for girls who are playing sports right now.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I worked in sort of a corporate environment, and I was talking to somebody who did the hiring, and they said, you know, we always look for the D1 athletes first.
Yes.
And not for sports, but just because they know that those people have a level of self-discipline, have a level of commitment. They know how to do the work. They know how to serve the team.
They know how to be accountable.
And they know how to be accountable. Yes. Absolutely. Speaking of featuring great people, one of your episodes, one of your most recent episodes, is about a field hockey player named Elisa Calver. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Yes, Alyssa's show is actually airing this weekend.
Excellent.
And what I love about Alyssa, field hockey player at Babson, was crushing it in the finance world, but she was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer when she was 34 years old. Her daughter wasn't even 1 yet. And so obviously traumatic. It could have gone in one of any, lots of different directions, but she turned pain into purpose. And she decided to start this incredible nonprofit called WeGotThis.org, which is the first gift registry in the world for cancer patients. So imagine being diagnosed. It's obviously traumatic for the patient. Families, friends want to help. And this is, much like a baby registry or wedding registry, things that patients will need that will be really helpful. It takes a lot of stress off family and friends, and it's also very educational for the parents.
Yeah.
And she's harnessed what she learned through sports, that intestinal fortitude, to start this amazing nonprofit.
Amazing. And amazing that you and your team found her and all the other people that are in it.
It was a process. We've built out a database of more than 250 women. And diversity across the board is incredibly important. Diversity in the women's backgrounds, in the sports they played, and in the industries they serve, because the goal ultimately is to be this amazing, if you see it, you can be a database where any girl playing sports right now who aspires to be anything in the world can find a story of somebody who she hopes to look like when she grows up. And so having this well-rounded database of women is critically important.
The data doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie. Listen, while we have you, we wanted to talk about something currly happening in the W. The W has gotten so much.
Liberty won the Commissioner's Cup?
I mean, it's like I served that right up to you. But I want to talk about Caitlin Clark, Alyssa Thomas. Last week there was, well, there it is. It's right there.
There was a thing.
Yeah.
Alyssa was suspended for 1 game after that altercation with Caitlin Clark. Thomas was suspended. Thomas was then doxxed, meaning that her home address was leaked. She received hate mail that was sexist, that was racist. She received death threats. And then she went on to call up the league, and she said, listen, the league is not doing enough to protect its players. And she left it at that. She wasn't saying which players in particular need to be protected, but she just left it at that. You are someone who has covered sports you have seen the evolution of not just women's sports, but of sports. Period.
And the physicality
and
of sports.
You covered 90s NBA. It doesn't get more physical than that.
I covered the Bad Boy Pistons back in the day with Dennis Rodman and Bill Laimbeer. And I think, Marisol, first and foremost, violence, threats, this inappropriate behavior on social that we see all the time is absolutely unacceptable. I will say it is not exclusive to the WNBA. You see it in every sport. You ask any NFL or college football kicker who has missed a point to win or lose a game, death threats all the time. It is never okay. But what I will say is that the league has had explosive growth. Have mistakes been made? Yes. Has progress been made? Also, yes. And so while it's not perfect and things need to be addressed, what I would say is that on a macro level, the growth of women's sports has told us all definitively this is not a moment, it is a movement. And that ultimately is great for everybody.
Yeah. So there's going to be growing pains.
Yeah, there are growing pains right
Yep.
now.
Yeah.
For sure.
You mentioned creating this database that taught young women, young girls, if you can see it, you can be it, which I love that. Part of the show also involves a mentorship aspect and a lab where you can sort of teach about sports nutrition and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why that's such an important piece of the show?
Because we didn't have it when we were growing up.
Imagine that.
Okay, how much did people talk to us about nutrition,
No.
the importance of sleep?
Zero.
Having open and honest and vulnerable conversations about mental health? No way. You would be judged if you went to anybody about your mental health, and just the information that exists today simply didn't exist when we were. And so, yes, we want to tell these amazing stories, but in trying to figure out how to construct a really well-rounded show that educates and enlightens not just athletes, but parents and coaches too, we wanted to have these really meaningful, meaty segments with actionable items they could take away and implement, whether it's, what you're feeding your athlete at home. Oh, it's time to get recruited to play college. What sort of things do you need to know? I mean, myriad topics.
You're not just telling their stories, you're giving viewers actionable things that they can do for themselves or the people in their community. I love a good homework assignment.
We all do.
Especially if it comes from you, Bonnie Bernstein. Bonnie Bernstein, thank you so much. Champion's Edge with Bonnie Bernstein airs weekend mornings on ABC stations nationwide. Check it out.
Awesome.
Thank you.